So I'm here with former Hofstra men's lacrosse player Ryan Tierney. Ryan, how are you doing, bud?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So Ryan, I'm here to talk today about the popularity of lacrosse. But for you, I know that lacrosse was going to be big in your household from even before you were born, pretty much. So just tell me, just what are your first early memories back to when you're younger?
Yeah. I mean, I've been told. I don't remember, but the first thing I was handed when I was born was a lacrosse stick. And then lacrosse was always a part of my life from when I was two, carrying it around, just throwing the ball in the house. And then as I grew up, playing through middle school, high school, and then through college with my dad, and then continued on to the pros.
You said that you were handed a lacrosse stick at birth. You weren't even given like a bottle or anything like that at
No,
birth.
that was the first thing was a lacrosse stick. No bottle, just a stick right away.
A bottle came second, right?
Second, always second.
And you said you were playing lacrosse in a house and throwing the ball around with a stick. Any broken windows? Anything?
Not in my house, but in neighbors' houses, they definitely didn't like me that much, especially as I was getting older. Third through sixth grade, there was a couple broken windows for the neighbors, that's for sure.
How mad was your dad or your parents in general, or were they just like, hey, look, he's gonna play lacrosse and he's gonna be good?
Well, so then we put up these like 25-foot nets around the backyard in my old house, so that anytime I hit the pipe, at least it would hit the net, and then the net started to rip, and then the broken windows came back. But yeah, that was their first reaction. They're like, all right, we got to put up a 25-foot wall around the house to make sure these balls don't go flying into the neighbors.
Okay, then. So you were growing up. You played lacrosse. It was big in your house. You grew up in Massapequa, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
How popular was lacrosse throughout your youth, growing up in Massapequa? And I know you played on Team 91. Can you just talk about, actually, just start out with Massapequa, growing up, being in lower school, elementary school, just talk about the popularity of it there.
Yeah, so lacrosse is huge in Massapequa. We're like known as the top high school team in the country. When we moved up from Maryland, that's where my dad wanted to go, wherever the highest talent was. Try to help me out, to help me grow, stuff like that. But all throughout elementary school, even we had club teams. I played on this team called the Raiders when I was in fourth grade, and we were already traveling to Maryland, play other fourth grade teams, and it got intense pretty early. Especially a bunch of the Massapequa kids were on the Raiders team, and we kind of pushed the envelope there. Knew a bunch of kids were going to go head towards college with lacrosse. They were playing other sports, but they were kind of just to keep in shape and stuff like that. Lacrosse was the main focus in Massapequa.
So lacrosse was the main focus in Massapequa, and also let me go a little bit back. Growing up, did you play any other sports like in the fall, winter?
Yeah, so I played football and basketball. Those were the only really other two sports I played. I played a ton of golf growing up, but it wasn't competitive or anything. It was just for fun. That was my time away from competition, was just to go out and golf.
What positions were you when you played football and basketball?
In football, I was quarterback and cornerback, so I'm playing both sides of the ball. And then basketball, I played point guard.
Okay, and you played those sports when you were while you were in Massapequa, right?
I stopped before high school started to concentrate on lacrosse. I played them all the way up until ninth grade, and then I stopped football and basketball to push lacrosse a little bit further.
How popular were those sports compared to lacrosse where you were growing up?
Um, it's they weren't. If you ask the football coach or the basketball coach at Massapequa, they were. Um, but no one was going D1 in football or basketball out of Massapequa. There was just no height, no athletic ability compared to some other schools, and lacrosse was a dominant sport. We weren't. They call Massapequa the Italians, because matzah ball is Jews, and pizza for Italians. So it was all these short kids, and they kind of stuck with lacrosse because there was another fit for them on the field. Um, Football is pushed, but not hard enough. And just, I don't know many kids out of Long Island that go D1, let alone Massapequa. And then basketball, there was a couple kids that went D3, but nothing crazy. So I think lacrosse was a main sport in Massapequa.
I know you're definitely not allowed to play baseball, so
I
I don't
played
even have to worry
one
about
game.
that.
I played one game of baseball in my life. I hit the ball and some kid caught it for an out, and I was like, "This sucks." Now I got to wait around for another 45 minutes to actually do something in the sport. Let's go home. We got Happy Meals on the way home, and it was the best day of my dad's life.
Do you know do you remember how old you were when that happened?
I was about 6. I think I was still in T-ball or coach's pitch, and some kid caught it, and I was like, I'm not sitting around in the outfield for the next 45 minutes. Let's go home. He's like, all right, perfect. Let's go home.
Probably return your bat and put another lacrosse stick in your hand at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so now let's go back even a little bit more because I'm going back and back. So yes, you did mention Maryland, and you did grow up in Maryland. When you were much younger. Do you have any memories from then? I mean, about the popularity of lacrosse back then. I mean,
yes. I still have friends that I keep in touch with from back then. We had a tight group of about 5 families that we all are still friends with. We go on vacation with all the time, and it's just a great group. And playing lacrosse with them, it was always fiddlesticks in the summer. So those little tiny lacrosse sticks that you play around with in the backyard, we'd always play all year round, but especially in the summer at the public pool. And then lacrosse is huge in Maryland. Obviously, it's a hotbed down there. So I grew up in a town, Timonium. So we played for this club or this team called Cockeysville. And we were very competitive at lacrosse. It was our rivals was this town, Kelly Post. And lacrosse was huge back then, especially in Maryland.
So, and you were born in New York, you moved to Maryland at a younger age.
Around 2.
Yeah, when you were around 2. And how old are you when you moved back up to New York?
I was in 3rd grade, so I was 8.
Do you feel like those experiences of playing in Maryland, as you mentioned it, to being a hotbed, do you feel like those experiences helped sort of like push you like further ahead of people in Massapequa when you're around in 3rd grade by any chance?
Yeah. I mean, I think in the beginning there was this league called soft sticks. It's no checking. It's like when you're in kindergarten and they use the plastic sticks that you use in gym class. I was playing that when I was 3. I was playing on the 5-year-old team. So I was running around as a little runt as kids were starting to grow a little bit. So I think I got an advantage there, just playing actual lacrosse at a younger age than most people. But besides that, like actual pads and competitive lacrosse, I don't think there was much to it besides stick skills.
Okay. So, all right. So you grew up, in Maryland, you come up, you move to New York. And so you go to Massapequa. Can you talk about how you got involved into Team 91?
Yeah. So I was playing on a team called the Long Island Raiders. Like I mentioned before, we were in 4th grade. And as kids are getting older and kids are getting better, parents get pissed because other kids are playing more than their kids. So it started a fight in between the parents of the Long Island Raiders. So we eventually split up. And we merged with a team called Team 91. It was just getting started up at the time. Now it's a powerhouse throughout the country. But it was just getting started up at the time, and we ended up merging teams. So about half the Raiders came over, half of the Team 91 guys, they stayed. And we made one team out of it and ended up being number 2 in the country for the club lacrosse our age for a while.
You talk about the camaraderie on the team and, the friendships that you made and what lacrosse had brought you in that instance?
Yeah. So actually, crazy enough, my 3 roommates freshman year were all on my 91 team. And then 3 other kids in the freshman class were on our 91 team. So I was able to experience club lacrosse, meet new friends from other towns as well. But then not only that, I got to go to college with them, compete at a highest level, and build those friendships like I have with Riley Forte. He's been my roommate. He was my roommate for all 5 years of college. We played club lacrosse since we were in fourth grade together. And we're just best friends and have been best friends since we were in eighth grade.
So, okay, so you're going through Team 91, and at what age? I'm sorry if I keep on like asking like the same
No.
question. What age were you when you were playing with Team 91?
So I was about 10 to senior year of high school, so 18. So about 8 years I played with Team 91.
Can you just talk about the importance of Team 91 and how you feel it helped develop you to becoming what you became at Hofstra University?
Yeah, I mean, being a top tier club program, we got to only play other top tier club programs. So all the other teams in the country and in college, they're loaded with top tier club players. Club lacrosse has taken over the sport. It's very rare you see a kid go to college without playing club lacrosse. So playing against the best talent in the country, having kids on our team that went to Syracuse, went to Notre Dame, went to UNC, went to these big schools, you're playing with those guys and against guys that are going to those big schools as well. It only gives you another leg up on the lower tier club teams. So you have the experience of playing with all that talent as well as playing against all that talent.
Do you feel, well, now Ryan, let me ask this question. Do you feel like a lack of maybe you don't feel like there's a lack of club teams, but do you feel like, well, for me personally, like, do you think like, maybe the amount of club teams or like sort of like a shortage of club teams being around the United States as to why lacrosse may not be as popular potentially?
I do, but I think that it's growing. I think that it took a slow growth. I think lacrosse is a very expensive sport. And with club lacrosse, I think that the owners see it as a business rather than actually helping the children. Now club lacrosse can cost $7,000, $8,000 for the summer, not including the $500 you spend on equipment and other $2,000 you spend on travel. Like it is a very big thing now. And with the clubs charging so much, I feel like it's hard to break in. And I think it's unfair, to be completely honest. I think that it's turned in from, oh, let's help these kids, let's play lacrosse, let's do this, to how can we squeeze as much money out and keep and retain as many kids as we can.
So, okay, so you talked about the money aspect, but do you also feel like it's sort of like a geographical? I'm trying to find a way to phrase this.
No, I understand. I understand where you're going. I do think that there's a lack of talented coaches throughout the country. I think that it's all concentrated in states like Maryland, New York, and as the coaching staff and pro lacrosse players start to move new places like Florida, Tennessee, stuff like that, then those club programs are going to grow up. But it's just like if you're playing rec ball with your friends, it's all someone's dad coaching. So that dad might not have any experience in college. He might not have connections to get the kids the new set of balls that you're going to play with on game day. So now you're using a greasier ball and you're throwing the ball away in practice. So you adjust to it. And then all of a sudden it's a really grippy ball on game day and you're throwing the ball into the ground. So I think that there's a lack of not only coaches, but connections in these areas. I think that it's growing in states like Georgia, the Carolinas. I think that it's definitely getting there. Utah, California. I just think that there's a lack of exposure, not at our level, but at the 40 and up level that are going to bring it to the kids.
Got it. Well, hey, look, Ryan, you have a chance to help the future out,
I know. Yeah. I was in San Fran running a camp about 2 months ago. Flew out one night, fell asleep for about 5 hours, and then ran a camp all day trying to get these kids as much exposure as I could, and then flew home that night and just got out of there, just trying to touch them as much as I can, give as much information as I can one day, and then fly home.
What was that experience like? Giving back to younger kids, and I'm sure that some of them knew who you were. As you were helping them out.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was awesome. It's cool to see the talent because of athletic ability. Like, there's a lack of knowledge of the sport of lacrosse, but there's an athletic ability that if someone picks up a stick and they played hockey, that they're going to be pretty good at lacrosse. So it was cool to see as the sport is growing, the amount of kids that came out for the camp, one, and two, the athletes that are starting to really turn and learn the game out in these little spots, little pockets across the US. I think it's really cool. I think Colorado's growing a ton. I think there's a bunch of states, and I think it's honestly the fastest growing sport in the United States right now, just because football, concussions and stuff, parents don't want them to play. And there's a better chance of kids going to college if they're playing lacrosse rather than football. You know what I mean? Getting a scholarship, going to one of the 70 D1 schools and getting some money and off their tuition.
Do you know some names throughout the country who have been able to help the sport grow throughout these different states that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so there's this company called Goalie Smith Lacrosse. They are concentrated on goalies only, but they're doing this traveling training method or tour-based training method where they're flying to cities, running a 3-day clinic on only goalies right now, but they're doing really well, both financially and being able to now, I made this, now I can go to this state. Now I can hit California. They're based out of Maryland, but they've been up to New York. They've been down to Florida. They've been in Georgia. They've been in Colorado, and they're building a following in this position of goalie. And I think that they're doing a really, really good job getting their name out there and getting across the country and touching as many states as they can. I think they did like 180 trainings last year, and there's 365 days. So besides traveling, they're moving, they're getting to every state. And I think they're doing a really, really good job about it. There's another guy that I actually sponsors me, this guy, Two Wolves. His name is Jack Kensel. And he's starting to think about that, touring the US at the attack midi position, which I think would be huge because he brings a knowledge to the game that is lacking in these other states.
Okay. And also, like, let me pause this real quick.
Oh, of course.
So lacrosse has been around for decades, centuries,
yep,
generations, however, you want to interpret it. So, and it's not one of the major sports like baseball, basketball, football, or we'll even include ice hockey. Why do you feel people would take those sports like, baseball, basketball, or football compared to lacrosse?
Yeah, I think it's honestly because their parents played it. I think it's starting to turn over now. We had a kid on my club team. His dad was a pro baseball player, and he pushed lacrosse. He's actually playing at Duke right now, one of their best short stick D middies. But I think that, as I can attest to, a child is a product of their parents. So if their parents played a certain sport, the child is going to end up not being purposely pushed into that sport, but they're going to have a better chance in playing that sport because the dad has the knowledge to help them to be better, or their mom has the knowledge to help them to be better. So I think that as our parents and stuff like that were growing up, baseball was more prevalent. It was easier to pick up a baseball bat or a basketball than to go spend $700 on lacrosse equipment. You know what I mean? It was just easier. Oh, I can go down to the park and shoot hoops. There's not a lot of lacrosse cages out. Lacrosse cages were actual fence for a while. They weren't actual nets. So I think that as the sport is growing, as kids are starting to veer away from their path of their parents and trying something new, lacrosse is going to grow even faster. But I think that people pick baseball, basketball, football because their parents pick baseball, basketball, football. Like, I think that they're just following the footsteps because they had more information growing up on those sports. So they tend to love it. Or the dad watched baseball on TV and basketball on TV. Now you get the exposure to that on TV. All you want to do is go play that sport, go mimic those pros that are hitting that 3-point shot at the buzzer or hitting that grand slam home run. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of lacrosse on TV. So kids aren't getting the exposure that they would see in those other sports. So they're picking up the sports that they get to see and imitate.
That's an interesting answer because I never thought of that, Ryan, because a good chunk of people that I have spoken to have said, money for basketball, like, when you have to, just grab a basketball and you could go down to the park and you could just shoot hoops. You did mention money. You did mention that part.
There is a little bit of that, but I do think that the exposure level is also another thing, because if there's only lacrosse on TV, I think one, parents would make it work.
Yeah.
The expenses, and two, the kids would want to play the sport that they go watch and see the pros doing these things.
Hey, that was, I mean, I'm just thinking, I'm like, damn, that's actually a really good answer. I like that one. And you said that there was you said that there was there was a guy on Team 91 whose dad played professional baseball. Who is it?
Matt Camille. He plays down at Duke. His dad was a professional baseball player. I forgot what team. Garden City kid. Ended up PGing, going to Duke, and now plays D-Midi down there this is his 5th year. But he was like the reason why I brought it up, because he veered away from that path. Obviously, his dad was pretty good at baseball. He had all the knowledge, but somehow being in Garden City, a lacrosse hotbed, that's where it brought him.
What if you veered away from that path, Ryan?
I don't know. I don't know. It would have been an interesting path for life. I don't know if I would have played in college in any of these sports. But it would have been funny to watch, funny to see.
I'm just thinking, like, imagine if you flew out and then you came back to your dad and you said, I want to stay in to keep trying this or something.
Yeah, or if I didn't quit baseball that day, what would have happened? You're crazy. Little decisions, they affect the long run.
Hey, if you told Stephen Gorshov that story, and if you told him what if I kept playing baseball, I think that he would probably have an aneurysm or something.
Yeah, probably.
So, and also I meant to ask you this question before. So going back a little bit to Team 91, and I forgot if this might sound a little bit stupid. Who coached you in Team 91? That you said that was a summer league team. You said Team 91 was summer, right?
Yep, summer league team. So it was.
Did your dad coach that? Oh no.
My dad coached, but he was a good job coach. So him being a college coach made it harder for the guys if he were to yell at them. So he took on a role, and he knew it right away. He took on a role, good job, coach. So if a kid threw the ball away out of bounds, you'd be like, oh, you tried, good job. Because he knew that he couldn't say anything negative because it would deter the kids' thoughts on the sport. So he played it really well. He let the other coaches be the assholes. But we had Brian Spallina, who was a pro, played at Hofstra, now runs Team 91. He's the one who started it. This guy, Brian O'Keefe, his son, Mac, played at Penn State. He plays on the Chaos right now. And this guy, Jake Weinman, his son played at Marist. He was out of Bayport, Blue Point. So we had a good mix of kids. Dads were coaches, but all the dads played pro. My dad, Brian O'Keefe, Jake Weinman's dad, they all played pro lacrosse. So they had the exposure, they had the knowledge. And it helped us become the powerhouse team, and actually helped 91 go to where it is now today, because we were 1 in the country for a while, and arguably 1 and 2 because the number 2 team wouldn't play us because they didn't want to lose their winning streak. So every tournament we went to, they wouldn't play us.
So everybody pussied out?
It was just this one team that they tried to poach a bunch of us, and then they wouldn't play us. I don't want to mention the team. I have friends that are a part of that program, but if they saw this, they'd know who they were, and they wouldn't play us no matter what. They wouldn't play us, and we was arguably 1-2, but we couldn't decide because we never got to play.
Well, you don't need to worry about it because whatever. Well, that part of this story is not even going to be said.
Okay,
don't worry about it, dude. So, and also now let's go back a little bit to the Team 91 part. So, your dad was hard on everybody.
No, so he was the good job coach.
He was a good job coach. I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah. So he was the opposite of hard. If anyone did something wrong, he'd be the only one clapping for them. Like, oh, you tried, good job.
Well, how uncomfortable was that for you?
I got yelled at. I never got the good job because he could yell at me, and I knew it would be the same. I actually got kicked out of a tournament on Father's Day, and punching a kid in the face. He slashed me, so I punched him in the face, and that's when I got it the worst. Probably 25 college coaches on the sidelines, balls down the other side of the field. Goalie comes over to me and whacks me right in the knee, and I just turn and I punch him directly in the jawbone, and he drops, and I get the flag. I get kicked out of the tournament. My dad's like, "Really, Ryan? Father's Day gift? This is what you do in front of all of my colleagues? You get kicked out of the fucking tournament?" So that was
that in the car ride back, or
it was 5.5 hours from Virginia, not a single word. I sat in the back seat the entire way home.
Was your sister or your mom there at all?
Actually, my sister got kicked out of a tournament with my mom in a different thing. She got some girl in the chin with a cross check. She didn't mean to, but it was a great Father's Day because both his kids got kicked out of tournaments in the sport that he coaches in. So it was a great look for him.
So and just real quick, like how did your sister how did you you all find out about that happening? That's a funny story.
That was the call on the ride home. My dad called my mom saying, "Oh, we're heading home early. Your son got kicked out." And she's like, "Well, that's great because we're heading home early too. Your daughter got kicked out." And it's like, "All right, we'll talk when we get home." And not another word. And for 4.5 hours after that, it was just silent the entire car ride home.
And you were sitting in the back seat?
Back seat. Wasn't allowed to sit up front. Yeah. He's like, "I don't want to look at you. I don't want to turn and see you. So you're sitting in the back seat." I said, "Okay, sounds good."
What if you had to pee?
Hold it. Figure it out.
And I wanted to know, was Bobby Casey, Riley Forte, were they all there when you
all on the team, right? Yeah, they still tell the story till this day, laughing hysterically because they didn't see it. They were down the other end. The ball was on the other end, so everyone's facing that way, and all of a sudden they hear the flag go up, the whistle blow, and they're like, "What happened?" And they just see me walking off the field, the goalie laying on the ground behind me. And they're like, fuck. So yeah, they all tell the story to this day. They laugh about it.
So when you got home, was it like you and your sister side by side?
Yeah, pretty much on the couch, and my dad just standing there looking at us. And we and her were laughing because we were proud of it at the moment, but yeah, it wasn't a good weekend, 2 weeks, whatever we got punished for.
So let me ask this question, and this, I don't mean to like freak you out here with this question. Let's say, how old are you, Ryan?
I am 23.
When do you turn 24?
August.
Okay, good. You're older than me still. but by a month. Let's say, so you're 23. Let's say Ryan Tierney in another 25 years has a son, and he's coaching his son, and Ryan Tierney Jr. does what Ryan Tierney Sr. did back when he was being coached by his dad. What would Ryan Tierney Sr. do to Ryan Tierney Jr.?
I would have a little bit of proudness in my heart because I definitely know he's mine then. I'd have to make sure that he knows he can't do that, but I'd have to say I'd be a little proud if he did. You know, I mean, if he's gonna get a little shit, you got to give some shit back.
Okay
Stand up
then.
for yourself. That's all it is.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So so I didn't think I was gonna hear a story like this, but so okay, you play for Team 91, you go through high school, you graduate, you you go to Hofstra University. Can you just talk about, being a freshman and just looking back on your experiences and seeing all the work that you put in, and you ended up starting for you know a college team as a freshman, and you became a CAA Rookie of the Year, CAA All Rookie Team Selection, All CAA Second Team Pick. And if I went to go through this whole entire long ass list, my fucking jaw would be pretty shot. So just talk about that experience.
Yeah. Uh, so I actually broke my foot in the fall of freshman year, so I didn't play at all in the fall. Um, and then there was a couple injuries that put me to start in the spring. I really only had a week practice under my belt. Ended up being able to score and get that all those nerves out. But I think it was the guy actually allowed me to be me. So like there was this kid, Brett Osmond. He's an older kid, transferred from Marist. He was a junior when I was a freshman, and he was a defenseman, and he pushed me every day. So I had a broken foot. I was laying out on the turf or sitting on my knees and shooting every day, trying to get better. So I couldn't put any pressure on my foot. So I was just sitting on my knees at the front of the cage and just shooting. And that group of seniors, they really pushed in the pile. So obviously we'd wake up like 4:45, lift, do classes, and then practice. But every senior there, they made it a priority that there was another class, and it was called extra work in lacrosse. So every kid on the team put an hour and a half of extra work after you already lifted for an hour and a half, after you already practiced for 3 hours. You still had an hour and a half to do. It didn't matter if you did it at 8:30 at night, you did it right after practice, or you did it at 7 in the morning when lift ended. But you had to get an extra hour and a half in of shooting, running, dodging, throwing the ball against the wall. And I think they had such an impact on me. Like kids like Josh Byrne, where I'd go at 10 o'clock at night and we'd be shooting. And we'd have to
Really?
be up at 4:45. Yeah, we'd put the lights on in the stadium, and we'd be the walking out of there midnight. A bunch of the guys, we just all the offensive guys, Dylan Alderman, Brendan Kavanaugh, we'd be there 10 to 12, and we'd get up at 4:45 and do it all again the next day. But we had to get in that extra work. And every time someone was going for extra work, they invited everyone. So I'm very introverted. I like to work out alone. I get up super early now because I like the gym by myself. But they kind of pushed me to like, all right, well, now this tradition carries on. So I would send texts to the freshmen, the sophomores, the juniors when I was a senior. Like, I'm going to the field right now. I'll see you guys there in 20 minutes. I'm not giving them an option. I'll see you there in 20 minutes. That's when I'm starting. I expect all you guys to be there. So that kind of lived with me. And I think that allowed me to start my freshman year because they instilled this work ethic in me and this extra work period where in high school, that was never a thing. I was never putting in extra hours in high school. But as soon as I got to the next level, I had the right pieces around me to push me to be my best and push themselves to be their best.
Looking back, and you looking back, you you put up 31 goals, 16 assists for 47 points, right behind Josh Byrne, another guy who plays in the PLL, same league that you play in now. Like, and going through the road that you went through, like looking back, just how would you rate your road to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean it's not easy. It's all about time commitment. So like there was many times my freshman year where the days are way longer. In high school, I used to go to class, take a nap after school, do my homework, go back to bed, play video games. Now it was like, all right, I've got 16 hours of me being awake. How can I make sure that every hour I'm doing something? So I think Josh really helped that because he wanted to be great, which instilled everyone else to want to be great. So I think that was a huge part of who I am today, and just dedicating that time, because otherwise someone else is somewhere else in the country. Someone else is putting in that extra work. There are kids with work ethics today that are enormous. So I think that if you don't instill and take advantage of all the time opportunities you have, you're already putting yourself behind.
And with that hard work, you managed to get drafted into the PLL, going to the PLL Whip Snakes, but now you are a member of the Cannons. But as for the PLL, and you played alongside PLL players. I mean, people that made it into the Premier Lacrosse League, like Josh Byrne, and you played against people as well. But when it comes to the PLL, how do you think that league could grow in terms of popularity? I'm sorry to go back towards this subject once again.
No, you're good. So what I think about the PLL, I think they're doing a great job. They're hosting events in each city they go to for the kids in the city, training events where you play with the PLL guys, you learn from the PLL guys, which I think is helping the sport grow a ton. I think if it wasn't a tour-based model in one city, if they could have two cities going on at the same time, I think that would help it grow. Now, instead of touching 14 cities, you touch 28. I think that would be huge, or 26 because of the playoffs. I think that would be huge. And then eventually selling the teams to a city. So I think that that's their plan. They're not going to be a tour-based league forever. The MLS started as a tour-based league, and then they eventually sold their teams to each city. I think that the PLL is eventually going to do that, and that's going to help bring fans from each city to a team, help kids grow. They'll have a pro team to root for. And I think that the popularity of the PLL has grown a ton because they have such a good social media presence, and that's where everyone's eyes are today. I think the MLL had 60,000 followers. I think the PLL has 300. So I think they've already 5 times what the MLL has done. And I think once they sell it to cities, that will also help pros now be involved in those cities. So pros will be living in those cities. They'll be running club teams. They'll be coaching club teams. And now that talent and knowledge will be in that city, like a city like Kansas City. If we sold to Kansas City, there's not a lot of lacrosse in Kansas City. I mean, I'm sure there is lacrosse, but not enough known lacrosse. Imagine having 25, 30 professionals in that city at all times that are looking for a way to give back to the community. Obviously, like a minors team or a club team named after that pro team would be a really cool thing. So if it's the Kansas City Whip Snakes, and then it's the Junior Whip Snakes is the club team that's ran by the same organization, but now it's all for the kids. So I think that's the next step in this whole thing to grow the sport. As PLL teams go to each city, they'll now have the knowledge and the know-how to bring to the youth of those cities.
What about TV deals and stuff like that, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I like I said before about the basketball and football. I think the more it's on TV, the more kids will watch it. In 2028, it's supposed to be in the Olympics. I've been playing with Team USA for that. It's this new version called Sixes. So it's 6-on-6 and no face-offs. So you take the ball out of the net, you go down the other end, it's like basketball, but on the lacrosse field. So it's even higher paced than lacrosse is right now. And I think it's going to allow other people to understand the game more. There was a stat that 51% or 57% of the NFL, people that watch the NFL, don't know what a first down is, but they like to sit and gamble on the games, bet on the games, whatever it is. Or someone else is watching it, so they're watching it. And because of that, the NFL grew to where it is. So I think if we change the rules a little bit, make it like a basketball hockey hybrid, now people will understand the sport, understand the rules a little bit more, be more engaged. And I think it's going to be huge, especially if it's in the Olympics. Then it's going to become a real deal thing. And I think that the NLL, that indoor league, is growing fast. And it's all those hockey fans. They're going from the Buffalo Sabres. Is that the team, Buffalo Sabres? Yeah. Okay.
You're good. You're good. Yeah, you're right.
I don't even know. I'm not a big NHL guy, but whatever it is, now they're Bandits fans because Buffalo Bandits play in the same stadium and they play at different times. So they need something to do. They're going to go to a Bandits game, go watch it. And if you watch the NLL games, the stands get packed because it's more like hockey. It's a fast-paced hockey. There's more hits, higher scoring games. So I think that helps the growth of the sport, and that will trickle out into the field game a little bit more.
I actually have to work the Riptide game this upcoming Saturday.
Oh, awesome! That'll be fun.
Yeah, Bryce told me.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah. But you're actually not even a big hockey fan.
Like I like watching hockey. I'm not a big sports watcher, honestly.
Okay.
I might have been like the ADHD where if I was watching a sport, I'd rather be outside playing it. So if I was watching a Ravens Giants game, I'd end up picking up a football and going outside and just throwing it around rather than actually watching the game. Gotcha. I couldn't sit still for that long. I was always like, I have to go be doing something. I have to be throwing even the lacrosse games. I'd watch it, but I'd be cradling and running around the house when I was younger because I had to be doing something.
Yeah. I mean, like when it comes, oh wait, so let me ask this one real quick. These are just like little, if you had to have a favorite sport outside of lacrosse, what would it be?
So the way I'm looking at this question is if I wanted to be a professional athlete in another sport, because that's a question that you get asked a lot. Golf. I'd be a pro golfer. I love golf. I would play every morning if I could. And then hockey is second. So I think hockey and lacrosse, there's a big translation there. If I could skate, I'd probably be a hockey player, but I can't skate.
I could skate.
There you go.
Yeah. And I'm black. Look at me. I'm French and Dutch by birth, so I get a pass.
Yeah. So you already got the skating in your blood.
I'm black. Yeah.
Light skin. Yeah.
Also, Ryan, dude, I've been around hockey and lacrosse locker room. I'm a grad student now. Like I've been in lacrosse and hockey locker room since I was an undergrad. I didn't go to Hofstra for undergrad, but like D3, I was more, I was like more like behind it, like sort of like doing sideline reporting for my old school. So the point is like, so that's why I like the colorful personality of fucking around all the time.
Yeah. So you understand the locker room antics.
Oh, dude, dude, what
craziness that goes on in there.
Oh, it's a fun and memorable time.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Now let me hit home a little bit for you. Can you you've been around, you've been coached by your dad, good chunk of your life, obviously. And this could go to all your other coaches. We could start out with them, but then more importantly, your dad. Can you just talk about the impact of how they've helped you grow, growing up from young and to where you are today, and just talk about, just dive into it.
Yeah. So obviously, I love my dad. He was not the most easygoing person growing up. He wanted the best for me, so he'd push me as much as he could. That's where I leaned into the other coaches because I was able to vent to them they'd understand it. But my dad also, like his job, he coached college kids. So it's hard to change coaching college kids to coaching younger kids. So obviously he pushed me as much as he could and did what was best for me. And at the end of the day, I'm thankful for it. But there was one time where I quit because I just couldn't handle it in 8th grade. I just said, I don't want to play anymore. You like this more than I like this. I'm just here to have fun with my friends right now. In 8th grade, we're not competing for a national championship. I came back obviously, and then decided to play for him. Probably a crazy decision, but don't regret a single thing. And I think it's one of those things where your dad's always going to be tougher on you than someone else. So he pushed me, and he's the reason I am who I am today. But those other coaches allowed me to be a kid as well. So I want to thank my dad a ton, obviously, because we wouldn't be here without him. But I think is more importantly, I want to thank those other coaches that were able to dance around the father-son coach-player relationship that we had. Even the assistant coaches at Hofstra, because it's not an easy position. It's not an easy position for me and my dad. It's not an easy position for the assistant coaches. But one of my dad's biggest things was he was going to get whatever he deserved. So if I messed up, I was going to know that I messed up. If I did something right and I deserved to play, then I'd play. But he's never giving me any other opportunities over other kids unless I deserved it. Thankfully, I was able to come out my freshman year and show people why I was starting. But like that position of father-son, he knew that parents were going to hate it. They were going to say he's just playing because he's Coach Tierney's son. And it was definitely a line that we had a teeter growing up because of his name in the sport, or our name in the sport. So the other coaches helped a ton. I think that they were great. I think understanding that line was huge, and I'm thankful forever for everyone that's helped me get to where I am, and especially my dad.
And Ryan, back to this whole entire subject of why we are here. How do you feel you are going to try to help grow the sport of lacrosse? Outside of just being a part of the PLL, or even let's say like when you plan on your retirement, which I'm not saying is going to come tomorrow, but I mean in your future, if you have thought about that.
Yeah. So biggest thing is for me was I never wanted someone else to tell me I'm done. I didn't want to hang up the cleats on someone else's terms. So me making to the pros is a big deal because now I hang them up on my own terms. I'll stop playing when I'm ready to stop playing. In aspect of the other stuff and helping the game grow, I partnered with the guy Jack at Two Wolves. He runs a training company for lacrosse, mainly based out of upstate New York and Long Island. And every Sunday I'm at the turf teaching young kids how to shoot, teaching them the skills of the game. I have 2 sessions every Sunday. One is middle school, where we're going over the fundamentals a little bit more, teaching them how to get a little bit more power on their shot, little tricks and stuff. And then I have the session after that's high school, where I'm teaching kids how to take it to the next level, what it takes, what dedication, what you have to give up, stuff like that, as well as teaching them how to shoot, what are game-like scenarios when you go outside and you shoot on your own, what you should be doing, rather than just taking step downs from 10 yards away because you can hit the corner and you feel good about yourself. Shooting on the run and working on your weak hand is something that's vital for the next level. So I think that's how I'm giving back, helping kids get opportunities in Division I that maybe they don't play on a great club team. They're a great player. Kids get lost in the mix all the time. Especially in other sports. You know what I mean? There's a ton of talent out there. But if your name isn't big enough or the team you play on isn't a known team, you're not going to get as many looks as you would. So you have to work even harder. So I think I'm giving those kids the opportunity, as well as coaching them to help their mechanics, their skills, their work ethic get to another level.
Got it. And let me sort of end it off with this. Where do you see yourself in another 10 years?
Yeah. So the goal right now is the 2028 Olympics. Playing pro until then. If I can hit that and get on that team and play for them, I think that would be the point where I hang them up, depending on the outcome. But we'll see, because if we lose, I'm not hanging them up. But if we win, and I was a part of the first Olympics in lacrosse and we were able to win, that's when I'll probably hang them up and start focusing on real life a little bit, depending on how the salaries go in the PLL. Just because you can't make a living off of it right now. Especially, but hopefully in a few years or when my kids play, that would be an option. And I think it's going in that direction. How fast or slow it gets there, I have no idea. But I think that would be my goal. Right now, I'm just looking at those 2028 Olympics as that's the goal line. I got to get there somehow, some way.
Is one underlying motivation for you being a part of the 2028 USA men's lacrosse team also playing for your dad one more time?
So I don't think he'll be coaching that. He's going to coach the national team, but he's not going to coach the Olympic team. So there's still like the national team. Yeah. I just got asked to try out for it. I don't know if I'm going to do it or not. I haven't decided yet. As much as I want to play for my dad one more time, I don't know if going into it one more time is worth it. I think that the memories we have are amazing. I think the years that we had together are stuff that father-son experiences most people will never get, especially at that top level. And I kind of want to cherish those for what they are. I don't know if I'm ready for the men's national team yet. We got some high talent throughout the league still, and I'm still growing. Last year was a little bit of a down year for me in the PLL. Just had people in front of me, didn't get as many reps as I would liked, and I just put in the work. You know what I mean? Back to the nose, to the concrete, and keep going. And we'll see. Maybe I do try out. Maybe I don't. I haven't fully decided yet. But that 2028 Olympics is definitely a goal. And to say I was part of the first lacrosse in the Olympics thing would be something special.
Understood. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that with the new version of sixes that the Olympics is going into, it's going to bring so many similarities to the game of basketball, to hockey, and sports that these other countries are more used to watching, whether it's Russia in hockey or it's Spain in soccer. You're going to see some similarities between all those games, especially in the Olympic versions, that I think more eyes on the sport, the better, and it'll help grow the field and the box game, as well as this sixes version that's going in the Olympics.
Got it. And also one more thing. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not gonna ask.
You can ask anything.
No, I was gonna, because when I spoke to Kiki Hannon about this, he said like in years the PLL is gonna grow and like everything's gonna like rise up. I was just gonna ask you do you feel like in years like the PLL like the money's going to rise up, sort of?
Yeah, I do. I think that there's some powerful investors behind the PLL that are not going to let it fail. So I think it just eventually, whether it's in 2 years or 5 years, it'll eventually sell to an NFL, to an NHL, something like that. And then they'll know how to run a professional sports league at the top tier, get the TV deals, and then grow the sport that way.
Okay. Let me ask you this one. In the future, would you ever coach for Hofstra?
Yeah, so I got offered a coaching job, or someone asked my dad if I wanted to coach at St. John's. Um, I don't know. So with the first year out, me being on in the stands, I I'm hyper competitive. I I don't like losing in any aspect, and being in the stands or on the sidelines and not a part of the game, I feel like an itch to go in. So like I don't think I could ever coach, because then I'm relying on the people I coach to make the difference that I would make in my head. And I think that would drive me crazy. Um, my competitive edge is really, really high. So like even on the sidelines, I'm sitting there, I'm cursing to myself and freaking out during games, especially this year because they're not playing as well as they should. A lot of injuries in the way this year, but I don't think that I could sit on a sidelines and coach. You know what I mean? Like I would go insane, and I understand why my dad yells as much as he does, because he's as competitive as I am. Um, but I think that I'm going to take my competitiveness to business rather than to lacrosse, because I don't think I could sit there on the sidelines and watch a game go on without me having any say or help in it.
Here's one thing, and also, do you have anywhere to go or anything?
No.
Okay, then let me just ask you like a couple, because also like I put it till 6 o'clock, so I don't know if the timer is gonna run out. What you want to go into business?
Yeah.
You want to go to Wall Street or something?
No. So I started a venture capital firm about 8 months ago. We made some big investments. Actually, one is in the space of training aids for hockey, lacrosse, and golf. It's a weighted training aid. Um, Made a couple investments in this Web3 space. And now we're kind of sitting on the wayside, waiting for these investments to play out, helping manage these companies a little bit more. And then we'll see what happens from there.
Okay, so okay, all right. I mean, like, was it always like a? It wasn't really like a backup to your life because you like it sort of sounds like it wasn't always a backup, right?
No. I was, my plan out of college was I'm going to play professional lacrosse, and I'm going to have a job as well, and learn a skill that I can then monetize to a higher level.
Got it.
Yeah.
Ryan Tierney, fucking lacrosse player on the field, fucking Jordan Belfort on the side. I mean, well, like outside the stadium.